Welcome back, everybody, to the Big Venture Zone. This is David Cohen. I'm going to be your host. And remember, this show is geared to young entrepreneurs and founders, 20 to 35, Gen Zs, to give them strategies, ideas, confidence to move forward, and of course, the tips. The community, we have a community group page on LinkedIn called the Big Venture Zone, which you can join and get resources and inspiration and network a little bit in the group. And we're helping these young entrepreneurs succeed in a pretty tipsy, topsy, crazy world we live in these days. So this week's guests are Rod Overall and Stephen Clarke. And I would say, truthfully, they're friends, foremost and firstly. Both men are in their 70s. They've been in marketing and communication, and they're also entrepreneurs, so they get what you're going through. Stephen Clarke has been a creative director and oversaw graphic design and written communications work in his role as a creative director for a marketing service agency that he and Rod both worked at and founded. Stephen has spent 20 years of directing art for numerous federal government departments, and then he spent a decade in the private sector doing the same thing. He produced also fine art for over 60 years, beautiful work, beautiful paintings that really come from the soul, his life experience, and each painting, each work that he does tells a story. The last 10 years, he's been reinterpreting his visual observations as essays and stories. Stephen also has a big background, as I mentioned, in fine art. He's a very prolific artist painter, creating work that has touched the heart, the soul, and the mind of those that get to see it. Rod Overall was both an employee and an entrepreneur. So as I said, these two gentlemen, they've been there. They've walked your path long before you. So he's both an employee and entrepreneur as well. And when he worked with a company in Ottawa, that company was letting people go. And Rod, as he says, took the bull by the horns and started his own design business because he had a family to take care of, and he saw the writing on the wall, and it was time to make a move. And then over the next 40 years, he grew that business into a successful advertising, graphic design, and branding agency with a dozen full-time employees, one of them being Stephen, who delivered great work for organizations large and small across Canada, as well as a few in Boston, Chicago. And it was in this business that Rod and Stephen met, and they've been colleagues and friends ever since. Today, Rod works as a true north navigator guide who helps entrepreneurs rediscover their inner compass so they can confidently navigate in conflicts, challenges, and opportunities that come their way. He works on empowering those equipped with the right way, finding tools to chart their course toward their true north purpose. And if you've ever read Stephen Covey, your true north is your ultimate direction. Where are you going? Follow your North Star. So welcome, gentlemen. Nice to see you. Nice to have you on. We're part of a weekly group that meets on Thursdays, so it's nice to see you in a different element today. Welcome. Now, did I miss anything in the bios? Everything's good? Okay, good stuff. Well, I did miss one, and this is an inside joke, I guess, and that is we all like Golden Palace egg rolls.
That's funny.
Yeah. So let's get to our discussion and our talk today. And I'm going to start with you, Rod.
Good.
I think I think I want to talk to you about you both, well, first of all, in reading your bios, you both have like tremendous work life and business experience. And and then you both are creative souls, which is really important. So we hear a lot about Gen Zs or our younger audience that, there was an article that study or report that came out a few weeks ago from Gallup poll on how in companies, especially around the world, in North America, in the US and Canada, that employee engagement is gone down again this year. So, the Gen Zs, it seems they've lost the feeling about work. Loyalty's gone. They're shying away from management and responsibility. They don't want to touch it. What do you say to this sort of new work ethic and approach? Rod, I'm going to start with you. What would you, what's your take on that and this sort of the lack of jumping in with both feet into our vocation?
Well, first, thank you very much, David, for inviting me to your podcast. I'm looking forward to this very much, and I'm very glad to see you every week at the pub that we have, just to have some opportunity to share our life's journey and the dynamics of all that. So yes, yeah, no, it's a challenging time for younger people moving into whether it's the workforce themselves or it's in an entrepreneurial kind of role. Um, I really think a lot of that dynamics that they struggle with is because of the amount of opportunity they have to be on their own and focused in on social media platforms and stuff, and they get absorbed into that world. And I think a lot of the creativity and the opportunities to advance are outside of that. And not to take away from what you can learn from the social media stuff, but it doesn't really engage you in the interaction with others and the interaction in, I think the work that you need to do, your purpose, right? That's the whole idea. You're talking about the true north. What's your purpose? What are you passionate about? What truly matters to you is really important to discover, and it really requires, I think, interaction with others.
Yeah, I totally agree. And author Simon Sinek of What's Your Why
Yeah.
talks about that. Like, what's your why? And Stephen, you oversaw a creative department as a creative director, and being more creative type, you learn to embrace a leadership management role too. So why do you feel it's vital for younger employees to do the same, to embrace leading, to embrace managing people and company expectations and goals? Why do you feel it's vital for younger employees to embrace
Yeah.
this too?
Well, first of all, I would qualify and say it's not important that everybody decide they want to be a manager
Right.
eventually. And it is about you. It isn't all about you. I think that's what somebody who does aspire to that, or is even necessarily aspire, but is willing to accept being placed into that kind of role, because sometimes it is just being the person who's in the right place at the right time, and you have to be able to recognize you are the right person there. I think it's what you have to do is understand that you're not alone in this. I don't mean that in the sense of, oh, there are people to support you, but in the sense that you can't just be thinking of yourself. Every Everybody that you direct or that you manage has their own agenda, and you have to understand that they're not wrong for having it. The employee that you may have working for you that isn't totally sold on the organization still may be delivering something worthwhile.
And
And
yeah, and what I got from your answer just now too is you're not you said we're not alone, and we are, we're in a community at work, and you know it's up to you to make the community work and to make it enjoyable and to make it abundant. Um, and so, Ron, I'm going to ask you this. Like, you had a company for 40 years. So,
Mm.
what was the team spirit at your company like when you were running it?
Interesting. You'd probably have to ask the people that were working there. By the way, Stephen was a partner in the business.
Oh, even better.
He
Okay.
was he wasn't an employee, although at times I'm sure he felt like he was overwhelmed with that type of work and
Yeah.
helping to manage all the different people and the conflicts and the challenges that happen. So yeah, there's a lot of conflicts and challenges that happen. So in any grouping of designers coming together to create stuff. So one of the best ways we helped that was to recognize that most of the issues that happen have to do with process as
Mm,
opposed to the individuals. Individuals will always make errors, and that's just part of being human, right? So
right.
the dynamics is you need to establish and clarify processes and boundaries of the work that's being done in a way that helps people to move towards doing the right thing at the right time. And so we actually created an ISO 9001, which was a big thing at the time, and we found that was important for because our clients were going through that same thing. So we decided to do that within the organization, and it helped to establish the right things to put things in the right place. So whether you're doing it with others or you're doing it on your own, recognize that the situation that you're in has a lot to do with the process that you're going through to do whatever you're doing as an entrepreneur, and to clarify those boundaries and such, and give the opportunity for others to make error by giving them that direction.
Right, and I like that because there's safety to make mistakes, and we're also worried about making mistakes, for fear of shame or guilt or I'm not good enough. What would you say to a younger person, Stephen, who is afraid to act and take risks and make mistakes? What would you, if you were coaching them, what would you sort of like to impart? What wisdom would you impart on
Well,
somebody?
I have had that kind of experience with employees, and the first thing I told them is, don't think you're the only person who makes mistakes, and don't think I didn't make some, and that I don't think I'm not going to make some more. But that there's no problem with a mistake. The problem is not learning from a mistake.
Right, and repeating it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and making what's that definition about insanity, right?
right,
Doing it over and over again. Uh, if I think most employees are so terrified with your judgment about what a mistake is, and they think that you're not defining it well enough for them, so they're suspicious of anything that you say. Is it a? I don't mean that they're paranoid. They've got a point.
yeah,
You have information they don't have, right? So everything seems to come out of left field. I remember as a very young layout artist being totally confused by what I thought were very capricious changes on the part of management. About 2 years later, when I was in that management, I understood they weren't making these decisions on their own. I, as the manager, wasn't making them on my own. And I was subject to what I thought were the caprices of the next level of management up the line.
right. Um, Rod, and thanks, Stephen. And Rod, you mentioned process and operations and ISO 9001 or whatever back in the day. I don't see too much ISO anymore. But I'm in my role as a business coach and facilitator. I'm a big believer of process and systems. And when they all come together and work for the better of the company, magic can happen. Besides process and being mindful of how you operate and how things get done, and in your company, what else led to sort of the success of the business? Because you don't see too many businesses around for 40 years. You're doing a few things right. What were some of those traits, or what led to the success of this business?
I think as an agency, we were positioned as, not the cheapest, that's for sure. We were probably on the highest side of cost for an agency in Ottawa. But we did really good work. We were extremely focused on the quality and the of it and the creativity behind it. So we went past, or I believe we went a little past what typically many other agencies would do as far as the creativity goes. But it's really got to do with a lot of your ability to communicate effectively, or at least that's the way we looked at it. We divided our operations, or the work that we did, into six different steps in regards to communicating effectively. And we developed for customers in the branding world six sets of tools for that area. So there's always an introduction. That's the first thing, our introductions. Our second steps are invitations. The third are presentations. The fourth are appreciations. The fifth are propositions. And the sixth are prolongations. So those are the steps in the flow of communicating effectively. And the important thing is to evolve tools for the customer to use in each one of those and clarify that the use of those at the right time with the right tool, with the right message, as opposed to a lot of times what people would do would jump into a proposition, right? That's where you want to get to. But it's not really the right thing to do at the very beginning of a relationship, right? So, yeah.
Okay, well, speak to us about relationships and the value of those customer relationships. Like, what worked? Was it that six-step process, or was there something else that went into relationships with your clients? Because as you alluded to, you weren't the cheapest agency in Ottawa, so you had to rely on factors outside of that. So talk to us a little bit about relationships.
Yeah, it's all about relationships. It's too easy to do it as if it's a transaction. And I think a lot of the other agencies were more focused on the transaction of the situation. And so, if you're building relationships, it's really important to have that interaction. So, um, I don't know. It's a very personal kind of way of looking at things, and that's one of the great strengths that Stephen brought to the organization when he joined is relationship building, and not just with the clients, but within the organization too. So you might want to ask Stephen.
Yeah, I'm going to. So, our younger people, Stephen, they need to practice in the business world or work life to enhance and prioritize relationships. So, what would you like to add to that? Like the importance of relationships, communication, building trust. What would you like to share?
Well, I mean, it's as having been both a client of Rod and in fact, in our really early life, been over Rod as far as directing him. Uh, I think the most important aspect of a client relationship is a consistent. They have to understand who you are, and when they don't like what you're saying, they have to believe that it's coming from the right place. Mhm. I think that's a lot of what the value was with Rod. I know when I would hire Rod's company uh, and then get feedback because I was doing it on behalf of other people,
Right.
the feedback inevitably was that they're really, really committed to doing what it is I want. And I would say to them, well, what is it that you want? Because I was the person in the middle. And they would say, I don't know, but he seems to be defining it fairly well for me. And we're going the right direction. So I think it's language. I think he spoke the language they could understand. It's just too easy to talk in the jargon and in the ethos of the discipline that you're in. You got to understand that a person, I don't know, who's a mapping company, say, is not speaking the same kind of language as, or somebody at Indian and Northern affairs is, and not literally the language, but their approach to what it is that they need is not yours. And you can't make them have the same approach. But what you have to do is be very clear in explaining to them why you're doing what you're doing will help their approach.
Mm.
Will enhance what they're trying to achieve.
Got it. So you were, well, I heard a few things in there. The importance of being authentic and yourself.
Hmm.
Also, teaching rather than selling. There's a book that came out, oh boy, I guess it would have been like 2010 or 11. It was called The Challenger Sale, and it's a book on selling. And they did a study. Remember the 2008 real estate recession?
Mhm.
So, sales for a lot of companies went downhill because that was a tough time, right? Globally. And so they did a study on what kind of sales reps succeeded in that environment. And they learned that the kind of sales reps that succeeded were ones that listened to the client, which in your those 6 steps, Rod, that you shared, that was really stood out. But the other element is that they didn't sell you; they taught you what you're going to get from using their services or products. They taught you how to, make it work for your company or your organization. So, in your experience, now, what do you see maybe has changed in how we do business now as compared to how you did business then? Do you see any changes in that, in the relationship and building trust and in teaching your clients? Do you see any changes between then and now?
Are you asking me or
Yeah,
Stephen?
I know I'm asking you and Stephen can
Okay,
chime
Stephen
in.
and me. Okay,
Yeah,
you go first, Stephen.
Son of a gun.
yeah. Well, that's another strategy, defer.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah,
Exactly.
that's true. If there's something, see, as you know, David, I stepped away from this stuff
Hmm.
more than a decade ago. So I'm probably not the most informed person about what may have changed. I think I have some sense of what's made it change, and I think that is technology
Hmm.
and the reliance on technology. That that what we're doing now, that includes a Zoom call, so I can see you and pretend that I'm actually in the room with you, still isn't the same as being in the room with you, right?
Right.
And I don't think I have the impression that I know people who won't actually meet you. They only want to, and they will only talk to you on phone. I know people who will only text. They won't speak to you on the phone anymore. It's all
Yeah.
text because I think everybody is trying to remove themselves from the very thing that makes relationships work, whether they're business or anything else. They're trying to put a barrier around it. And I think companies have allowed that. Maybe they couldn't resist it, but I think it's created a situation where it's going to be a real challenge to sustain business capital R relationships in the future. And the
Yeah.
only way I think is to do the legwork, to get out and actually meet people live.
Yeah, and risk being vulnerable and just getting to know people on different levels. Rod, what's your take?
Yeah, this the idea of the vulnerability is really important, right? So the thing that I'm, working towards now is this true north navigating, utilizing the idea of the compass. And
Hmm.
one of the things that I find that people struggle with is their heart set, which is about the compassion that they have in relationship to yourself and your clients. So I I propose that it's really important for individuals to establish their 5 key values.
Okay.
There are hundreds of values that are out there, and so work through a process. That's what I do, is help others work through a process to discover their top 5 key values that they utilize in their work and in themselves and within their families or so on. And so mine is called Carve. And these are the things that I believe I did for our clients, and I hope that had great success with it. It's Carve is stands for creative, authentic, realistic, vulnerable, and ethical. Those are the 5 values that are the most important for me in the work that I did. Creativity, obviously, is an important part of it. Being authentic, having something that's really special, authentic. Realistic, also. I think that's a big struggle a lot of customers and people have, is being realistic about the situation that's around you. And you said vulnerable, and that is a very important thing. Is you have to have that vulnerability for oneself and for others to recognize that, and then ethical being ethical. So, yeah,
I,
I would establish those values. What your values are completely different. There's hundreds. What are they? Make sure you understand it and bring that with you in whatever work and whatever you're trying to accomplish.
I'm reading a book called Strong Ground. It's a leadership. It's on leadership by Brene Brown, who Dare to Lead, and she talks a lot in the book about being open and vulnerable and real and having that connection. She describes it as are we doing the plumbing, or are we doing the dance? So it's like both need to be present for good work ethics and good work to happen within an organization. And younger employees need to know that.
Mm.
Stephen, I'm going to ask you the next question. Integrity, and I sense, Rod, there seems to be a lacking a bit in our younger generation. Integrity seems to be lacking, and I think you both have alluded to it really nicely, pointing the technical world we're in, that it's easy to text, so we can avoid conflict in a text. Well, for the most part. So, what's this lack of sort of integrity? You mentioned, our time on social media, not valuing human connection. Stephen, you wanted to, have meetings in the room with people and, be able to see their eyes and get the vibe, So why do you feel, Stephen, like integrity seems to be lacking a little bit in our younger generation?
I'll be generous with people and say that they're perfectly capable of having integrity, but I don't think they understand that to behave with integrity, you have to know what your principles are. And I don't think very many people anymore actually spend time contemplating what is it that I value, and then why do I value that?
Mm.
And what is my obligation in terms of both projecting and accepting the values, rejecting my values and accepting those of others. I don't think, again, because of this disassociation, I think it's kind of atrophied. You had to learn that stuff when you were in, to use your expression, in the room with them. If you worked in an office with instead of at home and delivered your work by electronically, you were in an office with 20 other people. You pretty well had to figure out what people were about. And if you don't know that, and you don't have to learn what you're about. It's the interaction with people that teaches you what principles you actually have, or whether you have to articulate or enhance your principles. I mean, I like to think everyone has the ability to be principled.
Yeah, I love the philosopher. Oh, I'm forgetting his name. Anyway, know thyself. The importance of knowing yourself. And Rod, like I sensed, as a leader in your company and owner, that you had to know yourself, and even Stephen, and you can both chime in on this. You really were clear as to who you were, and you honored your creativity and your gifts, because that was the creativity was the C in Clarke. So, and a lot of people don't honor or know themselves, and they don't honor their talents and gifts in a way that's really positive. It's not about ego. It's not like I'm the best, but it's about confidence.
Mm.
Talk to us a little bit about that, Rod, and then Stephen, I'll throw over to you.
Wow, that was a big thing for me. I mean, I grew up as a kid thinking I was quite stupid. I couldn't spell. I struggled in school. I had no aspirations for anything, but I could draw, and I could draw fairly well. Not great, but okay. And I loved it. I loved all of the things about it. So I just migrated, I guess, to that world, and found out much later in life that I was dyslexic, and that it wasn't so much stupid, it's just wired differently
Mm,
from others. And in my ability to be able to visualize, I could connect things visually that others were struggling with. So I could easily tap into, I think this could be the solution to a challenge visually based on having some interaction with a client. And so that flowed, I guess, flowed through to me, and it was really quite wonderful. And so that's what I used. Terrified to do any comps back in the old days when we were young people. There were no computers, wasn't anything. You had to sketch everything out and paint everything and do comps by hand. And so my biggest challenge was to put a heading and not make a spelling mistake in the heading and have to present that to a client. And often it would happen, and I would be terrified to have to do one of those. But you had to do it, right? You had to be vulnerable in that world, right? And that's another important thing. The whole concept of being an entrepreneur is about vulnerability. The vulnerability of the client or the person you're working towards, and their vulnerability in regards to being hiring you as an agency to do the work, right? So that's a really important aspect of it. Anyway, sorry for the ramble.
oh no, that's good. It's an excellent flow today. Stephen, Rod shared the Carve philosophy. What are three leadership um, skills that you practice and that you feel are vital for success? For our younger entrepreneurs to embrace. What are three leadership skills that you practiced and that you believed in and that made you strong?
Well, I don't. I hope it did. From some employees' perspective, they may have thought, at least initially, it made me weak, and that was that I never started off assuming I was the one that was right, and because by definition that implied they had to be wrong,
Right.
And so I would sometimes spend a lot of time listening to something that I, at least from the beginning, assumed could not possibly go take us in the right direction. Just allow them to exhaust their intellectual examination of it
Yeah.
and come to a conclusion on so that it was their conclusion. That probably the principal thing in terms of what Rod was mentioning. I was taught uh, by my mom that I could, from a really early age, that I could say absolutely anything to everybody and anybody who visited us, adults. If I was at 9 years old, I would be joining in conversations. My mother told me, though, you can say anything you want. I will never shut you up. But just remember, you got to have somebody's going to say, why do you think that? Or where did you get that piece of information from? And you should have an answer for that. If you don't, then I want you to shut up and leave the room. And so I've always thought of it that way too, in terms of I would never try to direct anybody that I without being fairly confident I could explain why I was doing what I did or why I wanted them to do what they did. And I don't think a lot of managers do that well. And I think of a lot of employees know that managers don't do it well, and it's very frustrating for them. just be told because I said so. Or worse, the employee sees that it's not going to work, but the manager, because he's the manager or she's the manager, is insisting. I think you really have to be humble. I think humility is probably a really, really important part of being of managing.
Yeah, I love it. So lose the need to be right. There's an old saying by psychotherapist or psychologist Gerald Jampolsky. I don't think he's with us anymore, but he's written books about this and spoke about the idea of, well, would you rather be right, or would you rather have love, right?
Hmm.
I like also too that you have the right to speak, you have the right to communicate, you have the right to share what's on your mind without being made wrong or being made less than. And I like the fact that you're bringing humility, and good leaders are about that. It's about empowering others to be their best, and you have to be humble, right? So really, I think those three are brilliant. So thanks, Stephen. Yeah, good job, you guys. We're with Rod Overall and Stephen Clarke. They're two friends, colleagues, and former leaders and owners in the ad agency in Ottawa. That grew to international status too. I mean, you're dealing with Chicago and Boston and clients there. That's pretty cool. In terms of your creative process, Stephen, what did you take pride in your work?
Well, it's a very internal, it's a personal thing. I said, I don't know that everyone would know that or see that in my work. What I take pride in is that I do it for me, that I do it with an absolute demand of personal honesty to myself. And in fine arts, I don't actually worry much about whether other people understand it, although I love trying to explain it to people.
Yeah, I bore witness to that.
Yeah. But when the actual execution is happening, unlike in business, I have the liberty of not caring whether you understand what I did. But it combined with this compulsion I have that you just acknowledged to try to explain to you what I did. But it doesn't matter. Ultimately, I'm still going to do the same thing. And I think that it's a question of liberating yourself from others' judgment.
Yeah,
In the creative field.
yeah. There's a quote from Wayne Dyer. He says, "What others think of you is none of your business."
I love that. That's good.
Yeah. Rod, talking about pride, how important is taking pride in your work? And how did that pay off in your company's success? Not pride in a sort of a negative way, but just like being proud of what you've done or what you've accomplished, the clients you work with, the success you're having. How important is it to take pride in that?
Yeah, for me, it was all about excellence. It's striving to create excellent work that has impact, that's effective for the client, and cutting through the clutter and being able to help that voice rise up and allow it to, yell out, here's what is important. And clients tend to get in the way of that, right? So too many times we would create some concepts and ideas that we thought were fantastic, and the client would take them and say, yeah, yeah, okay, great. Take them home, present them to their wives, and then come back and say, my wife doesn't like this or that. And I would go, what the? Anyway, so what we started to do was what we call customer value mapping. So you actually do some internal value mapping within your organization to make sure that what you're saying, it rings true to your organization and the people within it. And then take that outside and test it with some of your best customers to make sure that the messages are ringing true and are effective. And in that process, we were able to help our clients focus on their customers in a sense of values. And that was a big thing. So if it was able to do that, I would be we would be very, very excited and pleased. And, you know, that was very rewarding.
It is, and it's so satisfying when you have happy customers, or you've done a good job, or you mentioned that you had an approach that the Japanese have, which is KANI, constant and never-ending improvement.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. We practiced lean principles and did that for many, many years and followed the lean, the Toyota way as best we could.
Yeah. Yeah, and then look what happened. Toyota, I remember them coming into the Canadian market in the early 70s, and by the 80s, they were eating the American automobile manufacturers' lunch because they were always improving. You know, yeah,
Yeah. Doing some work with Toyota, just a quick little story. Doing
yeah,
some work with Toyota, I got a chance to actually experience their culture sitting in a room with a bunch of Toyota people. And there was an example of what you're saying, people being able to speak their mind openly and honestly to the fullest extent. Because what they did is they recognized that somebody was the champion to a particular cause. They had the final say, but it allowed everybody to speak up and say what they truly meant or felt about something. But at the end, they always said, this is a wonderful thing. Take what you like and leave the rest behind. And that always is an important part of the way I look at opportunity to be open and strength, right? Everybody gets to say what they want, but it's the individual that takes what they've said and leaves the rest behind. And that's a fantastic way of looking at things.
yeah. I like that too, gentlemen, because it's giving people the freedom, like Stephen, what your mom said to you as a kid. You have the right to communicate and say what you want, and I think that's really important. And then that we don't take things personally. If you don't want to make it personal, it's not an
If I
attack.
could just interject,
Yeah,
that's
please.
the business of pride, I think, is a problem. Uh, when you said that I think it's confidence is the issue. That if you're confident, pride isn't necessary. Pride to me is kind of an egotistical thing.
Right.
Confidence is confidence. It's
Yeah.
and if you are confident, you project
Yeah.
that. I don't think clients want to know how proud you are of what you did.
Mm.
They want to know how confident you are that what you did will work.
Yes, yes.
They don't care about your emotions. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. And so yeah, walk with confidence, and say what you need to say, and put everything on the table, and then from there you can build. You can say, hey, I like that, I like that, I like that, I didn't like this. So from there you can build and become a can I type company, right, Rod? Like you can be a company that's always innovative, being creative, serving the customer, doing things better than before, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Experimentation. That's the
Yeah,
whole concept of lean is experiment. You did it once, you did it this way. Well, yeah, can you do it better?
yeah.
Constant improvement, always. Yeah.
Yeah, these are really critical for young entrepreneurs to get and to embrace. I just want to shift gears a little bit. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk a little bit about AI, and we've already alluded to it before. It looks like it's here to stay. Some suggest, right? But author Daniel Pink shared a research into using AI and how it actually impacts one's creativity. And this just came out like a couple of weeks ago. Like he's posted a video about it and a study and a report on his LinkedIn channel. Um, and he said that using AI for creative purposes is actually dumbing us down. So,
Mhm.
Stephen, what's your take on the importance of honoring and practicing our creative work and maybe not relying on AI so much?
Well, in fact, I would say that if you're using AI, I mean, nobody's going to like me saying this, but if you're using AI, that in fact you're not being creative. You're abdicating the role as an artist, and I mean art in the broad sense, whether it's writing or anything.
Yeah.
That's the whole. I don't know if it's in any dictionary definition, but the definition of creativity for me
Hmm.
is human. By I'm sure lots of wonderful things come out of AI. Lots of idiotic things come out of it too. I observe that every day. But the fact is, even if it's good, there's no person except maybe the person who invented the program who can say I am the author of this, and they're only the author of it indirectly if they just authored
Yeah.
the program. It's ownership. It's a creative impulse. The creative impulse is really ownership of your personality and your intellect. And if you give that away, you're just renting space.
Yeah. Wow. Rod, you're laughing. What are you?
Well, yeah, this is that authenticity, right? This is the dynamic. So people don't recognize that AI is a spectacular tool for collecting information, collecting from all this larger sense of it. It's just remarkable that way. But as far as a pathfinder or directional tool, it's useless. It can't do that work. That's something that only the human, in a sense, can do. And for example, a compass, that's what the True North Navigators is about, is centered around the idea of the compass, has a very specific purpose. And that is to find your way. Utilize this tool to find your way. Even in the darkest and the most dismal kind of situation, it was a way to find your way. It doesn't do that job. It fails because it's taking information in from all over, and it's not focused. It's just huge. So yeah, it's got its purpose, but it's got to be very it can be useful, especially as they're saying now, even in the hospital, the operating rooms and the emergency areas. It's going to be a very useful way of taking information in so that you can give it to the people to do something with, right? That's the important thing.
Yeah.
But you just touched on it. It's what give it to people so they can do something with it. Okay,
Yes,
then the creativity is the person doing something with it.
correct.
If they rely on AI then to tell them what they should do with it, it starts to become a different
Exactly.
exercise altogether.
Tell them what to do with it. That's a directional thing. Yes,
Yeah.
and it's useless at that. It's not a very good tool for that. Exactly, Stephen. Yeah.
Yeah, and you talked about it too before. Like have confidence in yourself and your abilities, and trust your stuff. It's really that's also really vital. I want to just circle back to Rod, when you had your business and talking about creativity. Do you recall like a creative campaign that got the whole company and client excited? What was it, and how did everybody respond?
Oh my God. Now I'm going to be stuck. I've got too many going through my head right now.
Okay, is there one that kind of stands out?
Well, there is one. We did a branding program for Atomic Energy of Canada and helping them to change their focus from being called that to AECL, which is basically what their customer knew them as. And so we did a customer value mapping program and developed a branding program that was pretty extensive. It was a very large campaign, and over 2 years, we traveled all across Canada and did some great work and helped them resolve an issue of basically being potentially, uh, in a sense, reduced by the government of Canada because they didn't see value. And we were able to show that value in everything that they were doing. And so I take pride. We had great success in helping them, you know, further the problem. I'll give you one example quickly.
Yeah.
Business cards. AECL, or Atomic Energy Canada, we traveled, found over 1,000 different business cards that organization was using. We were able to bring it down to having one business card. That was a huge issue as far as cost, but also in relationship to saying the wrong thing, branding yourself so that it becomes a weakness as opposed to a strength. So there's one example.
I love it. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to move into the last part of our interview. And these are rapid fire. It's called rapid fire. So quick questions, quick answers. Are you both okay with that?
I'm gonna take a shot at it.
All right, all right. Do your best. um, Again, everybody, this is the Big Venture Zone. I'm your host, David Cohen, and we're with two great gentlemen, Stephen Clarke and Rod Overall. We're talking wisdom from the elders to help you succeed. So here's rapid fire question number one. Stephen, I'll go with you first. What's the most important communication skill and why?
Language,
Okay.
vocabulary.
Yeah.
And the why is because choosing your words choosing the words that mean something to the person you're trying to talk about is what's going to make understanding happen. It's not going to happen simply because you have the right word. It's got to be the right word to the right person.
Yeah, and you know, you think of our words, they can, you know, they can harm or they can
Yeah.
help, right? Yeah. All
I
right.
guess that was really a long answer. Sorry, I'll try to be briefer the next
Oh,
time.
you're doing it's really good. Rod, here's the next rapid fire question. We have five. What was it in you, character wise, that went into your business success? And I think you've already alluded to the car, but is there something in you that, yeah, this is why I'm successful? Was it, you know?
A passion for finding the right solution, being honest, open.
Okay. Stephen, why is paying attention to gut feel, intuition, so important? Trust your gut, trust your stuff. We talked about it a bit.
Because ultimately you have to live with the decision you made. And the gut is what's telling you what you're going to be comfortable with. I mean, that's the short answer on living. In business, there are all kinds of other reasons, right? Like it assumes in business that you actually have an understanding of the other company, and now you have a gut feeling of what they need.
Yeah,
You just walk in blind and say, "I know what you need is uh, a new branding exercise." Maybe you've missed the mark altogether.
yeah. You gotta, and you gotta ask, hey, what do you need?
Mhm.
Rod, rapid fire. We're almost done. What makes someone good to work with? Two ideas on this. What makes somebody good to work with?
I guess it's just being respectful of each other.
Yeah, and open.
Yeah, I don't know. You want short answers or long ones?
Here you want
Short,
Stephen
short.
kind.
It's rapid fire. Well,
Yeah, no, just being respectful of each other and not assuming. You know, you can't assume, and always be impeccable with your word. Is very important. Don't take things personally.
right.
So,
That's based on oh, what's his name? Don Miguel Ruiz.
yeah, the four agreements.
Yeah,
Yes, very
Four
much. Yeah,
Agreements. Yeah.
yes.
So for those listening, get that book, review it. You know, because it's the Four Agreements are. It's going to help you be a standout in whatever you do as an employee, as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Last question. If you were to coach a young employee or entrepreneur, what's one bit of wisdom you'd share? Uh, yeah, Rod and you
No,
can go and
Stephen, it's Stephen's turn.
Stephen. Okay, Stephen.
Tit for tat. One thing, listen. I think it would be, you better learn to listen and pay attention to not only what people are saying. See, I get rambling on again. Not only what they're saying, but try to understand why they're saying that.
Mm.
Because if you don't understand their motive, then you're gonna challenge them on the wrong basis.
I love it. This was great. Where do we reach you to connect with you, Rod and then Stephen? This was a great chat today.
The website, truenorthnavigators.ca, is where you can get a better idea of the kind of thing that I'm doing with the compass and navigating, finding your inner compass. So
Yeah.
truenorthnavigators.ca.
Okay. And Stephen, is there a place we can connect with you?
Well, I'm a recluse, but but if anybody did want to talk to me or have a dialogue with me, it would be through the True North thing and the aspect that is the pub, because that is I'm a faithful participant in that.
Yes. And for those wondering, a pub, oh man, these guys, what are they drinking all the time? No, it's an online group we meet every week, right, Rod? And we discuss things from the heart that are psycho-spiritual type topics to be a better version of us, right? Would you agree? Do I have the feeling?
Yeah, yeah, it's called the Three-Legged Stool Pub, and the idea there is that the idea of three legs is because no matter the circumstances of the environment that you're in, three-legged stool you can always sit on it and be able to do your work. Four legs, not so much. So it's important to recognize that situations are going to happen that aren't good. And that's what the pub's about, is to kind of have some opportunity for everybody to share and listen and share.
Yeah. And it's just a coming together on Zoom once a
Yeah.
week. Yeah.
Now it's by invitation only, just so people
Right.
recognize that it's not everybody. We try to keep it a small kind of group, so
Yeah.
yeah,
Because, there's some personal things that get shared.
yeah, very much.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Well,
I didn't mean to open the invitation to everyone.
No, no,
What I meant was there are
yeah,
three of
yeah,
us here talking. If one of those people wanted to invite somebody to join because they wanted to,
very much,
I
very
don't want
much.
40 people either because I'm tired of talking to big groups now.
this was great. That was Rod Overall and Stephen Clarke. They joined us from their home offices in Ottawa today. Gentlemen, what a joy. I knew it would be. Yeah, so thank you. Next week, we're going to talk with Joel Kleinberg about cutting through the clutter. And we're talking marketing, and Joel's a marketing promotional specialist. I'm David Cohen. It's been a joy to be your host this week on the Big Venture Zone. Thank you so much for listening, and Rod and Stephen, thank you so much for being our
Thank
guests.
you, David. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
All right, what a joy, guys. Thanks. Have a
Thank
good
you.
week, everybody. Stay well and do well, too.